One of the things that almost all companies struggle with the most is how can I get more attention and eyeballs on my business so that I can sell more things, whether it's product or services. And one of the things that I hear most often is I've tried Facebook ads before, but I didn't get a return. It was just money poured down the drain. And a lot of it just comes down to not having the right marketing, not doing enough selling to let your market know what you're all about, what details are in there, and really take them by the hand and step by step show them that your solution is right for them. So anytime I've seen Facebook ads, there's just not enough there. It's just very lazy marketing in that you're not putting enough information to give people kind of think about it kind of as their checklist in their mind. Like, okay, they're going to come to your Facebook ad and kind of assume that it's a scam or somebody just trying to take money out of their pocket. So they already have their guard up, and you kind of have to, along the way, give them the information that they need to show that they're in the right place, that you have the right product or service, kind of connect with them as well. Like, who is this person on the other side? And then allow them to know what is that next step and what to expect as they go through and click through along the way. And most companies don't do this. So today I want to kind of walk you through an example of kind of a before and after in terms of Facebook ad, or what it could look like, to give you an idea of how much extra effort you should put into your ads to make sure that you're getting higher conversions and ultimately leading to more clients and customers. So Facebook ads are one of the best ways to get in front of the right audience, but you have to do it in a way that really takes that prospect by the hand, stop their scroll, kind of catch their attention, but also lead them on that journey of letting them know why you're the best person or the best company to help them with their problems right now and why you have that best possible solution. So what I've done is just taken out an example. Coach Monique, she's a personal development coach, business coach in the Pittsburgh area, very highly regarded. I actually went and read her book, which is also amazing. So check out her book if you need some advice. But I want to take a look at her ad. So this is one of the things that kind of pointed out to me. And again, this is very, this is what I see all the time in terms of Facebook ads. So here's just one example. She's got a webinar that's really about kind of reducing stress, kind of giving you little techniques along the way, especially if you're a business owner, if you're an executive, to give you an idea, especially as you're coming into January. If you're feeling a lot of anxiety and stress about your job and where the economy is going and all those kind of things, she has amazing techniques that she kind of outlined in her book and also in this webinar to really help you. But the problem is that she hasn't done enough in this Facebook ad to really convince you to actually join that webinar. So here's the Facebook ad copy. It goes along with she's running two versions of it. One is kind of has kind of a GIF over here. The other one has a short video, which really just kind of explains and introduces her services. It says, I'm Coach Monique. Here's what I offer out there. But you can see very short ad copy. If you're trying to call out her audience, this is what I see kind of it's very similar template that I see kind of across the board tried to be used. First thing you do is try and call out your audience, tell them what that call to action is. So in this case, a mini webinar, try and highlight maybe a problem that they have. So in this case, getting the formula to overcoming challenges affecting your career and life. So very broad, not very specific. And then at the bottom, kind of talking about, so there is a kind of a spelling error there. So not saying techniques, but techniques to relieve your stress, anxiety, and being emotionally exhausted. So again, just calling out the problem, talking about the call to action, trying to call out the audience as well. You see this all the time in terms of a Facebook ad template. Does it work for some people? Of course, that's why it continues to be used along the way. But I want to show you kind of an alternative. If I were to rewrite this, what would it look like, and what would be kind of the story that I could tell to get people a little bit more interested, to get them into that webinar and let them know a little bit more about what to expect. So I'll go over to kind of this Google Doc. One of the great things about Coach Monique, again, she's a great coach. She has a lot of great testimonials on her website, and this is kind of just one of them. So what I did is kind of use one of her success stories with an executive who had gone through some of these pain points, and I turned that into a Facebook ad. And this is one of the best things that you can do, either using your own story, but you can also use testimonials and success stories, especially if you have those video testimonials as well. Great way to kind of put it in their own words, tell their story of transformation going from one problem area to that life that they've always wanted. And this is really what it's showing. So we're using that story to kind of capture that person on Facebook, capture their attention, kind of get them into their world, and basically say, I've helped somebody just like you who's been in your shoes, and I've taken them to the other side. In that story of transformation, you're kind of taking that reader and giving them some hope that you can help them in that same way. So, here's kind of as we kind of go through it, here's kind of the step-by-step. So the first thing is kind of these first few lines is really important, because Facebook, especially with these longer posts, is going to cut it off. So you're going to see the see more button after probably this third line or fourth line here. So we want to make sure that we're saying words and phrases that really capture the audience's attention, really speaks to their specific situation. So for this one, it was a success, like a testimonial that talked about, she had been in therapy for several years, nothing was connecting, things weren't getting better. And this is something that, with a lot of, her specific target audience, especially business owners and executives, they have sought out, in the self-help space, the personal development space. They've read a lot of books. They've actually gone out and hired a therapist, but nothing seems to, they might get some breadcrumbs along the way and seeing some improvement, but nothing is really, nothing is really changing. They still have that kind of underlying anxiety, that discomfort, and they're not really getting to the life that they really wanted. So in kind of sharing this and sharing a part of that testimonial, we're kind of speaking to that audience that is kind of feeling like, I'm not getting over the hump here, despite all my investments, despite all this time that I've spent on trying to improve myself and get things better. So that's kind of the opening sentences there. And then I kind of get into the story. So Amy supervised so many people and felt like she couldn't do it anymore. So again, kind of a low point in the story, kind of starting with that, kind of that critical element. And I think many of her prospects can kind of think about it in that same way. They've been kind of in that low point where stress, anxiety, kind of managing all these people is just too much. So again, we're trying to connect to the audience where they are and kind of lead them through in this story, and kind of giving a visualization as well. Let's start to create that movie in their head a little bit. And this is where I kind of get to this line. Felt like she was carrying around overflowing buckets of issues and stress every single day. Her imposter syndrome constantly reminded her that she wasn't up to the job. So everybody can kind of relate to that voice in their head, that imposter syndrome that kind of follows them around all the time. And again, all we're trying to do in these first few lines is really connect with the audience and saying, you're in the right place, get them reading down the page. We're not trying to just sell in a few lines, really trying to wrap them up in the story, get them reading down the page, and then we're going to start selling the next step, which is really about Coach Monique and joining her webinar. This is where we kind of bring in Coach Monique. Truth is, I've been there too. And that's one of the great things about Coach Monique in her book. She really talks about the personal stories that she's had and going through these similar struggles. So she really can connect with her own stories as well. And that's why we want to bring some of that in. We're not just working with people that we've helped, but she actually can go back to her own personal stories and do it that way. So, talking about how she wasn't good enough and didn't matter, living with the constant stress of an anxiety of being part of an everyday existence. Until she finally came to that realization that that negative voice in her head was not something that she wanted to listen to. So all these things are kind of coming from her book and, that she's already written, and we're just bringing it to the fore. So using the assets and repurposing some of the content that she's already doing. So, and then we're kind of using an intriguing question. So the question becomes, how can you change the conversation going on between your ears? So we're kind of including our audience in that conversation and saying, okay, have you had enough here? And do you want to start to make a change that they're looking for? And this kind of gets into, the solution. So talking about the webinar and what's it all about and how it could potentially help them. So we talk about the free training. We're going to discover how we're going to develop healthy coping mechanisms. So again, we're kind of showing them a little bit about what they're about to experience. It's showing them, okay, we've met you where you are. Let's talk about the solution that we could potentially offer. Talk about maybe that, what's your life going to look like after you've been through this? So now you're emotionally and physically resilient in the face of stress. You're not going to spend time living in the waters of negative waters of negative and painful thinking. So again, kind of showing them the opposite of what they're doing right now. And again, kind of highlighting, giving them the links along the way. For some people, they're ready to hit that link because it already has resonated with them. But then we get into actually more specifically, what are some of those techniques? Because people are going to be skeptical. They've read all those self-help books. They've hired therapists and nothing has changed. Let's get a little bit more specific about what are the specific techniques that you're going to learn to kind of tease them out a little bit. Like what is something that I might learn? So we talk about kind of the delete technique. So this is something that Coach Monique has come up with. And again, teasing it out a little bit. So think about it as kind of a super sharp scalpel for your thinking and speech. So again, bringing a visual so they can actually see it and bring it to life a little bit more. So we're removing those negative thoughts and then kind of teasing out what else is in there. So in this webinar, here's a few bullets of, to build some curiosity, to get them going down and clicking on that link a little bit more, and kind of teasing out, again, what are some of those other coping mechanisms and techniques that they might use as well. So again, that kind of brings to the fore, and you can see the difference between that first ad that we had. Again, to just go back to it to show you what it looks like. Again, with this one, it's just a few lines and doesn't really give you a whole lot about what the webinar is about, who it's for, that kind of thing, or actually what, how Coach Monique can help you. And then we brought you over to this other story, which really kind of hit the whole checklist along the way. And again, this is going to go to a landing page where you can do a lot more work. You can kind of introduce further testimonials along the way. You can kind of see how we're selling in each step of the process. We're not taking for granted that our prospect might not know anything about Coach Monique, any of her solutions. We want to start from a blank canvas and kind of build that interest along the way. And by doing that in a story-based Facebook ad, we can really do it effectively, get more clicks, get more people on the webinar. They're further along in the process, and they're more likely to sign up for that free call, which is what that ultimate call to action we're looking for. So take a look at that, and hope that was helpful.